Hello and welcome to the first edition of Umbraco Community Office Hours. My name is Rachel Breeze and I'll be facilitating today. We're joined here today by Kim, Filip and Ilham from Umbraco headquarters. And because there's a few people in the audience who might not know who you are or what your role at Umbraco is, it'd be great if you could introduce yourselves. Kim, would you like to go first?
Yes, should we wait 2 seconds? I see a lot of people, if that's okay.
Yeah, I can start again.
I see people are
still joining.
Yeah.
But yes, that is all right because they will be the recording anyway. We have a really tight schedule.
Okay, cool. I'm Kim. I'm the CEO of Umbrago. I've been that for 1.5 years. I've been working in Umbrago for more than 5 years now. To the UK attendees, I played cricket, so I know something about that. Yeah, that's enough of me. Filip?
I don't even know what cricket is, but let's not get into that. I'm Filip. I am the program manager for Umbraco CMS. So it's like the open source part of the company. That's my role. I've been with Umbraco for 8 months or something like that, and it's been fantastic. And I am super happy to be here today and talk about the future and where everything's going with the products. So I'm in charge of the CMS and some of our commercial offerings like forms and deploy and like that. And Ilham.
Oh, thanks, Filip. I guess I cannot really do a good follow-up to what Kim just said. So my part is going to be a bit boring, but hi everyone. My name is Ilham and I'm Community Engagement Officer at Umbraco. Basically, my role is to help community members and active contributors get a really good experience getting involved and engaged in the community. And one of the ways that I actually use a lot is enabling this engagement through building really strong processes, structured programs and initiatives like this one. One of the great things actually about doing initiatives like this one is to be able to include the community as well in organizing them. And with this, I want to really say a big thank you to you, Rachel. Really thank you for your time and for hosting this very first session. And to those who might not know you, I would like to do just a brief introduction. So Rachel is a senior developer at Sigma Consultant Solutions. She's also Umbraco MVP and a very active member of the accessibility team. She's a strong advocate of the Umbraco community and always makes sure to bring the voices of many in the community to us at HQ. So again, thank you. And thank you for not only leading this session, but also playing a big role in structuring the huge list of questions that were submitted and turning them into discussion topics for us to cover today within the time frame that we have. So one last time, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you for having me. Would you, Ilham, before we start on the questions, would you like to talk a bit more about the concept of Umbraco Community Hours and the plan for it?
Yeah, thank you. This is a new initiative and the idea behind it is to open even more the discussion between HQ and the community. I would like to highlight that it's not the first time that we've opened HQ's doors and ears as we've used before other formats, be it through the retreat during Code Garden or also during Code Garden open circle discussions and even recently roundtable discussions. So what we would like to achieve with office hours is to have a format that's more shaped around specific topics and open the discussion to all instead of a small select group of people that usually get invited either to a roundtable discussion or retreat. With this format as well, we will be able hopefully to follow up on the feedback that we get as we've already set up 3 sessions that are lined up. Actually, I would like also to mention that they will include live sign-in, so sign language interpretation, something that sadly we couldn't do today live, but we will make sure that the recording that will be uploaded on the community YouTube channel. We'll include it later on. So people will be a little bit patient before we upload the recording, as we will need the interpretation, the signing to be included in that. But for any other information about this initiative, I would encourage everyone to go to community.umbraco.com. There is a dedicated space there with the plans for the upcoming session, so you can book it in your calendar and also read about the initiative and what that entails.
I just say how pleased we were to hear that you're going to do sign language signing for the sessions. It's just brilliant to see that come in, and into DougFest as well. So thank you. So the questions for today's session are driven by a spreadsheet, as Ilham said, which was populated by the community. The questions were submitted anonymously, and this has made it hard to follow up and ask what each person asking the question really wanted to know. In addition, over 70 questions were asked, and as I'm sure everyone watching will appreciate, in a 60-minute slot, there's no time to ask over 70 questions and get an answer for each one. So I've pulled out some of the key themes from the questions, including development plans and contributions. But in short, pulling together this first session has been hard. I also want to add, given the questions have already been submitted, there won't be a live question and answer session today, and I won't be keeping an eye on Twitter, Slack, or the Zoom chats. So with that, I'd like to ask after Niels, because there was a lot of questions about Niels. He's the Chief Unicorn and the founder of Umbraco. I know, Kim, at the New Year's reception this year, you said Niels had decided to take a well-deserved leave of absence. What more can you tell us about Niels' sabbatical from Umbraco, and are there any updates on how he's doing?
You're muted.
Yeah, Niels is on a leave of absence until further. I do think it's very, very well, if not freaking well deserved, after more than 18 years working hard to get the Embargo project off the ground. I'm in regular contact with him as the CFO, and he serves on the board. He's the majority stakeholder. So we are in a regular contact, and the CFO and I met him yesterday, as a matter of fact, including his dog. I've seen speculations as to his return and well-being. I don't think it's up for me to say anything about that. I do believe that people has the right to privacy, and that goes as well for tech founders. So he is on leave until further, and as I said, it's very well deserved.
He has been the face of Umbraco for 16 years, so yeah. But whilst he's in on hiatus, who's managing the vision? Who's setting the direction for the products?
Well, ultimately, I'm responsible for that, and I have been that ever since I became the CEO, so 1.5 years ago. It's obviously been done in collaboration with Niels, and many of the things that we are currently doing, including the things that Filip is in charge of, is part of that. So it's me and the team around me setting the vision and the direction of Umbraco. Obviously, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not me getting an epiphany of how the product should develop. That's done through. I mean, one of the limitations I have as CEO is that I cannot initiate larger things without having the board on board, so to say. And so that's one constraint, and the things that we are doing is done very much in close collaboration with users, partners, MVPs, and so on and so forth. So that's how we do it. Having said that, It is clearly that in an organization that is growing, like we have been over the years, we need a strong product vision and product management, product ownership. Filip is part of that, and we are actively looking to get product owners on board in order to make sure that we are in sync with what is needed out there, and we do understand the needs of users, clients, and so on and so forth. We have an open position for a product owner, and Filip and I are together with Jacob are discussing getting a PO on board for the CMS as well.
I think that leads really nicely into my next question. Everyone who's involved in Umbraco realizes that no one can live or work for free. So if you're bringing in staff, obviously you need to pay them, and there's all kinds of other overheads. And it's fair to say, I think, that anyone who takes a step back from Umbraco would hear questions around the funding of open source projects in general. But I think, given the number of questions around the funding of Umbraco, it could be good to explore how it's funded a bit, if that's okay. I know you've got open books and other resources available online, but I don't know if you're able to tell us a bit more about funding and in general.
Sure. The history of Embargo, as I'm sure that many of us being here today are aware of, is that when it was founded and Niels or Per or Per and Niels needed some funding to do some stuff, a course was invented, or partner program, or whatever was invented along the lines in order to get some funding to keep the project rolling. Historically, we have had three legs to three revenue streams: training, certification, partnership, and support. When I came on board some 5 years ago, Umbraco Cloud was just launched, and it is supposed to be the fourth leg of Umbraco. And talking about that's revenue streams. I will come back to the size of those later. But Umbraco is at least three things. It's the software, it's the community, and it's the company. And we need to be in balance. We need to be in sync. We need to have a profitable company in order to create trust with support clients. For instance, they prefer to sign a support deal with a company which is profitable. We need to make sure that the software gets developed and is alive and stays relevant. We need to make sure, as we are open source and we intend to remain open source forever and ever, we need to make sure that the community is thriving as well. So these three elements needs to be in balance. Every money, all the money we make, we put back into the company. If you look at our annual accounts, they are in English. You can see that we made a profit of some 500,000 Danish kroner, divided by 8, and you have it in sterling. All those money goes back into the company. There's not paid dividend to anyone in the company. We get paid our salary, and that's it. If you continue to dive into our annual accounts, annual report, you would see that we have activated, as it's called in accountancy terms, more than 2 million sterling, 16 million Danish kroner, which is money that we have spent developing various stuff. And if we hadn't taken those from the P&L and into the balance sheet, then we would have come out with a deficit last year of some 3.5 million Danish kroner. But it's very common in software companies that you activate the development costs and then depreciate it over typically 5 years. And that's what we are doing and what we have done up until 19. I do expect that as of 2020, we will not put more onto the balance, but we will start depreciating that, because putting stuff on the balance instead of having it on the P&L is like peeing in your pants in order to keep you warm. That goes for a short period of time, but it's not sustainable in the long run. And the reason that I'm in this, the reason that we are in this, is to make sure that the Umbraco project is sustainable also in the long run. I'm fully aware that there's other models for open source than the one that we are using, but this is the one that we are using. That's how it started historically, and that's the path we are following. And we are in this to expand the reach in its broadest sense of the community, of the software and the company. So that's why we are in it. The budget for this year, we are looking, going back in time, the revenue, we had these 3 legs, training, certification, support, and partnership, each covering around 1/3 of our revenue. This year's budget, it's 45% is on cloud, 27% is on partners, just short of 20 is on support, and around 7-8% is on training. And we are very pleased with that, because as we have seen over the last year, that the resilience to things like COVID is higher for software as a service, so the cloud product, which makes us more comfortable that we can invest accordingly.
I guess that is why you've invested in offices outside of Denmark. I think you've got offices in America and in Australia now as well. Is that part of expanding suits and partner management, or is that about having more of a 24-hour coverage? Or I guess the question is, what are the plans around expanding into the different countries?
We see revenue as an enabler, and what we have seen in the countries where we have established offices, and we might add the Netherlands as well. Otherwise, Arnold will be sad. And we might also mention Mike, because he's dedicated the UK market, albeit that he works out of Odense. The whole point is that we see there's an interest in Umbraco. And when you start speaking with, say, agencies, could also be end clients, support clients, they are actually prepared to pay for services. And whatever revenue we get from them enables us to put money back into the company, into the community and into the software, expanding the reach. UK has been a huge market for Umbraco since the very, very early days. Denmark, of course, being catered for and serviced out of Odense. And we saw when opening in the US January last year and February 1st in the Netherlands, that we could actually pick up we could pick up business, we could pick up community activity easily done in the Netherlands, in the US, and we could also, see that people were actually, and here I mean partners, agencies were actually prepared to talk to us. They knew us, and they're prepared to enter into a partnership, which all is part of enabling us to expand the reach. Opening those two offices, the Netherlands and US, I thought when COVID hit that we have, that was actually what I said, we have just invested, and how will this end with all those uncertainties? But it actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because we were able to stay closer to the US market, the partners, the community in the Netherlands, closer to the partners. So it proved to be a blessing in disguise. As for Australia, we have seen that there's an interest in Australia and New Zealand, and that is why we are opening an office there. Following that office, following the sales rep, obviously comes we need some communication and marketing activities there as well, and we are looking into how we can do follow the sun support. In the US, we had a supporter seconded from SWAT to the US office, doing support there, covering the US area and doing sales support. And as soon as COVID permits it, we will reinitiate that. And I have a long queue of people who would like to go to the Gold Coast in Australia to do a similar thing. But yes, that's our ambition. Currently, we cover support-wise. We cover 2/3 of the day. That could very well be expanded.
I guess from that, we lead on to a few questions around the development process, because you've mentioned a number of SaaS projects already, like Umbraco Cloud, Headless, and so on. How do you balance the development of those against the developments of Umbraco Core? One for Filip, I guess, or for you.
Kim is unmuting, so do you want to say something?
Please start, Filip.
Sure. Well, as Kim said, our revenue, of course, comes from some of our commercial products, and the point of that is to drive the further development of all our products. There was a question for the exact numbers, and I'm happy to share them. If we look at our development team at Umbraco, we're about a 50-50 split between people working primarily on the open source project and people working on some of the more enabling products, if you'll say like that. So specifically, we have our new front-end team, which currently has 3 people. We have our back-end teams, which has like 4.5 people, and then we have Sebastian and Emma working on issues and PRs, which is of course a really important part of our open source work as well. And then we have a new team that's actually starting on Monday, that's focusing on forms and deploy, which is of course very much tied into the CMS and the user experience of the CMSs, and what you can do with it. And then we have our second level support as well, with a couple of people on it, and we're actually hiring a new team lead for that as well. So just to mention that right here. And on the cloud side of things, we have our cloud feature team, which is currently, I think, 2 people, if I'm not remembering wrong. We have our cloud platform team, which is 4 people. This is not my team, so I'm not that good at remembering all the people here. And then there's the DevOps team that does all the running the cloud. So it is about a 50-50 split between the two teams on D team. But of course, we work very much together, which means that that there's a lot of I guess the business term would be synergy or something like that, where we see features developed in cloud that then actually flows down and ends up in the CMS. I think the best, most recent example of that is some of the things that we've done towards authentication of back office users, right? Where we from cloud, we wanted to add a single sign-on experience where you could sign on in the cloud portal and be automatically signed on into back office, and that actually fed back a lot of new features into the CMS that was then released, I think, along with 8.9 a couple of months ago. But that I think, from my perspective, that's really the beauty of this collaboration between an open source project and some more commercial offerings. Like when they add to each other, like we really get the best of both worlds, I think. And I would say that for that specific things with authentication, I think most of the work was done by the cloud team, even though it ended up, of course, benefiting everybody in the open source project. I guess that's about the numbers of developers. Should we go into some more of the questions about the development, or what do you think, Rachel?
Yes, I guess there's a few questions around development. So one of them was about how you triage the issues. So I guess you've got stuff coming in potentially from cloud and into core. So how do you triage them, and how do you prioritize them against one another?
Yeah. Seems like Kim wants to go.
May I just say one thing before diving into that, and that's on a general level. It's important for us that whatever we do, we are able to execute on things. When we make a decision that we want to do the future-proofing Umbraco back office, I mean, that's something that we have talked about for quite a while. But it's been important for me that when we said now we are going to do it, I mean, brains and arms followed, so we are able to execute on stuff. It's been very important that for us that the Unicore project actually delivers as it's supposed, as it has said it will deliver, as well as it's been important for us. I mean, all the problems and issues we have had on the cloud platform, that the platform team actually is able to deliver as intended. So what we have done, say over the last 6 months, is try to lock some of these larger projects, break them down from a headline. What does it entail to have future-proofing the Umbraco back office? Breaking it down, making sure that we deliver on stuff, and we know that. For instance, forms needs a lot of love and tenderness, and we have hired accordingly. Obviously, we are living in a world which is dynamic. We didn't some of the things that we are doing now, we had planned to do 6-9 months ago, but due to COVID, it was put on a hold. But it's important for us that we actually, when we say we do stuff, we actually also execute on that. So that's the overall thinking on this. And then, Filip, please, the details.
I agree. Like I can testify to that. Anytime I'm in a meeting with Kim, he says, do we have the bandwidth to add another thing, or like we talk about that a lot because we really don't want to start up new projects before we can actually, have a plan and finish them off. Yeah, now I forgot the original question, Rachel, but I can just say
it was about issues.
Yeah, issues. Yeah.
And
So
how triaged.
yeah, issues, of course, is out in the open on GitHub, as you know. When our SWAT team, the support warriors, when they get something that's when they get an issue from a client and they figure out that this is actually a bug somewhere or something, they will put it on the same public issue tracker. So there's no private issue tracker or no expedited track or something like that. So the issue tracker is public and is available for everybody to follow along. And then I think so the issue tracker, like, of course, the hard thing is that if it just grows and grows, like it's really hard to prioritize. And we are at a place where there is a lot of issues. And even though we're actually on top of them, whereas we're closing more than there comes in, like we still have a big pile up of old issues. And it's really hard to actually, there's a lot of work just figuring out if an issue is actually an issue or if it's something else, and making sure that we can reproduce them and all that stuff. And that's why we've added Emma to the team with Sebastian, so that now there's actually another person dedicated to working on this part of our project, making sure that we respond timely and in a nice fashion, and that we help people investigate their issues on the tracker, and then we can actually start prioritizing over what issues to fix in what order, and what issues the community can help us fix. So that's like the overall story that we're investing more here. And other than that, like to get to the bottom of the pile, we've actually started a bot that starts from back in the day and starts closing off issues, because like issues that are 5 years old are typically already fixed or are no longer relevant or something like that. So if you find any of your issues, the bot will tell you as well. But if you find any of your old issues still open or being closed while it's actually still relevant, please go and reopen it so that we know it's still active. Because that's the point of that. So we wanna get our issue tracker to a place where we're on top of it even more.
How do you balance the issues that come in against the development priorities?
Yeah. So I mean, technically, we to be very specific, like we do a regular scrum with stand-ups every morning, and like a regular workflows, like I'm sure most developers do a similar thing, right? And when issues occur, we put them in a current sprint if they're important. We always plan with a buffer for that, so that there's time to actually fix issues when they occur if they're important enough. And for issues that are less critical but still important, we have a procedure where we look at issues at a frequent interval, and Sebastian and probably Emma, as we go along, will has a say in what features are then, or what issues are then prioritized over features. But when it comes to like the overall balance of, do we just add new stuff or do we just fix what we already have? It is a balance, and it's always going to be a balance, and it's always going to be hard to find exactly the right place to be. And I mean, that will continue to be like that forever. So
how it is for every developer.
Yeah, I think it's the same when you're on the agency side as well. I used to be in an agency, and I think that's more or less the same thing. But what I want to just speak to, and like, of course, right now a lot of energy goes into the Unicore project and to making Umbraco work on .NET Core and .NET 5 really, and I would consider that a feature request, right, or a feature work, and there's a lot of focus on that. And we know that it's not like when 9.0 comes out, everything is perfect, and then we can just start doing all features again all day. because there will be a time of stabilizing and of fixing bugs, and we plan on that. Of course, there is a little bit of so since a lot of work is being done right now on Unicore and on that migration, we don't put that much, especially backend effort into making new features for the CMS right now. The front-end team still cracks on, and there's still some stuff happening for 8, and of course a lot of community PRs and community work. But yeah, there is a trade-off right now where we focus a lot in the backend team on the Unicore group. But you know, the day-to-day stuff, like we know that we still need to fix issues when they come in, and especially if they're critical, and there's security stuff, and like we have a whole process for handling all of that.
And I guess you mentioned sprints. How long are your sprints?
We do 2-week sprints. So we do then we put 3 sprints together, and we call that a cycle. So we have like 6-week intervals where we set an overall focus and set some overall goals. And now we've connected that with our release program, as you might have heard for the CMS, which means that at the end of every cycle there is a new release of the CMS, and that means that since we're releasing RCs for all our CMSs, and those are 2 weeks. That means that about the middle of the sprint, we actually start working on the next release for the next cycle, because the rest of that the rest of that cycle is just the maturing and fixing the bugs, and then getting the RC out, and then actually releasing it. And I mean, to be honest, this is a new thing that we're doing, where we're releasing the CMS quite often. And it is a trade-off, and I've been thinking to myself, and I've been talking to people in the community as well about, like, is this the right cadence? Like, is 6 weeks the right number of weeks? Is that the right magic number? And we don't know. We'll have to try it out for probably a couple more releases, and then we'll evaluate on it and see if 8 weeks or 4 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever is better. Because like, the point is that we want the releases to be so small that the upgrades are so easy to do, and that's the I guess that's kind of that's the purpose of it. Of course, the next I would love, I can talk forever about this, but I'll stop for now. You can ask more questions.
I was going to say, you've added Cypress.io into the testing suite. Has that helped?
Yes.
Right.
I am, the reason I'm so concrete about that is that yesterday, or maybe it was the day before that, just after we cut the RC, and like the RC that comes out tomorrow, on Monday, we make the release and we hand it over to SWAT so they can do like a sanity check and make sure that everything works before we actually ship it tomorrow, right? And then we ran the Cypress test at the same time, and the Cypress test actually found something that we hadn't thought of. So if it hadn't been for the Cypress test, we could have potentially shipped the RC with a bug in it. So that was really nice, and a great example that the tests do work. Of course, I mean, tests work. I think that's a proven concept. But we're nowhere near where we want to be in terms of test coverage. Like, we want more tests, and we want to get to a place where we can release and be even more confident about what we release, so we can have more automation in our release process. And one of my dreams is that, and I know there's been a little bit of talk on this already. If not, I'm happy to talk more about it somewhere else. I really think it would be awesome if packages could ship with Cypress tests or something like that. That we could then, whenever we're ready to do a release, we could test up against all the packages and their unit tests or their Cypress tests, so that we could actually see that the combination between a new version of the CMS and the current version of the package would still work. Maybe even have some kind of automation that would then submit an issue to their repositories or whatever. But that would be really cool, and a great way to make sure that the packages are continuing to work. and of course that our stuff doesn't break anything that we don't intend to. But that is a little bit down the line, just to be straight. It's a vision more than a realistic plan right now.
I think it's fair to say that we would like that it's not our customers or users that are the ones testing the software.
Yeah. But please, that is like the point of the RC release candidate, to make that perfectly clear. The point of the release candidate releases are that we think this is done, and please help us make sure that it actually works before we ship it to everybody. So if you have the time, this is probably one of the easiest way you can contribute to Umbraco, is to when we release an RC, try to install it on your site and see if it still works or if anything breaks, and report it if it breaks something.
I guess we've touched on this already around pull requests on the call, but how else can people contribute, both in terms of community members and companies? How can they help with Umbraco? Yeah, we touched a little bit on that just then.
Yeah, there's a ton of ways to contribute. I really appreciate the fact that we have people all around the world contributing to our common project, and I think that's amazing. It amazes me every time I see new people joining the community with a PR. Right? I think that's perfect. But contributions are so much more than just code, right? We try to speak to this for Hacktoberfest every year, where we also give prizes for people contributing documentation or working on a package or something like that. There's so much that adds value to the ecosystem. And I know that we're doing partnerships with some of our partners where they help us build parts of the CMS. Like we've seen work for V8 for segments and for lots of features are being built that way, and especially for Unicore as well. Like we've had some great work from gold partners and companies around that want to contribute to that. So we actually, I think 2020 we released the contributing partners badge, kind of like the one up on the gold partnership. I don't know if that's the official way to put it, but it is a nice way to stand out as a company to say that you're a contributing partner to Umbraco. And I'm sure that there's a million other ways to contribute, and maybe Ilham, you want to add something to that? Just to put you on the spot.
I would love to, but I can see that I will stress Rachel because we're
over time. Sorry.
But again, I will highlight community.umbraco.com. There's so many great things there actually, and recently we started a page per Umbraco initiative or a big project, like what Scrift team does, Umbraco Coffee, candid contributions. There's so much inspiration in there. So I would very much like for people to go and visit that dedicated site, and also get in touch with us. There are so many people at HQ who would love to talk to you. So yeah, so I'll wrap it up, Rachel, to let you know. Follow your schedule.
But you're not allowed to wrap it up because I need to say something.
That's your fault, Kim.
And we have under Ilham's auspices, I think it's called, we have created the community happiness team, which consists not only of the various community team stewards, but also Emma and Warren in their new roles. We have dedicated copywriting from Koma, Shanice. We have brilliant arrangement master Trine helping out on MVP and meetups. So we actually now have a team, and we are intending to grow that. We are looking at, as we have developer advocates, we are looking to have a person in the US that might not be an advocate, but perhaps an evangelizing on Umbraco. We don't know yet, but there's actually muscles behind, and brain, not to forget, behind the things that we want to do around community. And it's important for me to at this point to say that community is not a department in Umbraco. It's an attitude. It's a way of thinking. And when Suits speak with partners, say in UK, they help sell or create awareness on the UK festival, and do stuff like that. So it's across the company. It's not community happiness team. It's the whole company that needs to work on the community. And surely, I'm sure everyone can appreciate that growing. I mean, if you're one person or you're 4 person, that's much easier to implement than when you're 75. But that falls on us. That falls on me. So that's the direction we are working.
In terms of the roadmaps, which I know you've publicised previously, is there a way of the community help shape the roadmaps? So I'm thinking there was requests for helping out with Umbraco forms, or adding headless to the core, or adding different membership providers within the question set. There was also a specific request around taking lead on hour on umbraco.com. Is there a way people can, other than doing pull requests to the core, is there a way people can help shape the roadmap?
Yes. I mean, we think of the roadmap as like the things that we've committed to do for our products down the line. So I think some of these things are probably wouldn't fall in the category that we would call a roadmap. But I think the overall question is how do we as the community help steer the product direction? Like,
that's it, yeah.
Where should the products go? And I think all the channels that we have for communicating are just fine for that. We picked this up. I think issues on the issue trackers are probably it's a pretty good place. We have a meeting every week where we talk about issues and PRs that have come up with new ideas, or that wants to add something to core or something like that. So that's a good way. And please, as we always say, don't just spend all your time working on a feature without telling us on it and then submit a big PR. Like you just risk losing or wasting all your time. But create a PR and tell us about your idea, or create an issue and tell us about your idea. And if your idea is about one of our public products, reach out to us. Like we love to talk about it. And I mean, there was a specific question about whether we could make some parts of forms open source and people could help out fixing it and stuff. And I think that's a pretty interesting idea. We talked about it actually earlier, and now that we're making a dedicated team to this, I think it's a good idea that we have to look at again with fresh eyes. And like I wouldn't say no categorically. Like I think it might be a great idea, but I can't promise you anything on that yet. Yeah. So what the overall question is? Yes, please bring us all your ideas, and we really appreciate ideas. As Kim said, like we don't just go into the ivory tower and think of a big great plan for where everything should go. Like we get our ideas from talking to the community, to partners, to each other. Of course, we look at what else is happening in the CMS space and like in the cloud space, and like we get inspiration from everywhere. So help us, give us your inspiration when share your ideas. That's how we grow the products together.
It's good to hear that you're open to suggestions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're doing with the part with open sourcing parts of forms. That is what we're doing with deploy, right? So we have a part of deploy that's open source, where, yeah, we could do a similar thing. I don't know, but for now, at least for those of you who are passionate about forms, as I know some people are, you know, you'd be glad to hear that that, like, we know and we've heard and we recognize that forms has not received the love and attention that it has deserved, and we're trying to make that better. So, and we're doing that by making a dedicated team, and that team actually starts on Monday. So that's pretty exciting, and yeah, more on that later.
I guess, like you alluded to, a lot of people put time and effort into supporting Umbraco in the community. I guess this is one for Ilham. Have you explored funding people who contribute to Umbraco a lot?
Yeah, I remember that question. Actually, it's quite an interesting suggestion to do something similar to the TikTok creator fund. I don't know though if it's a valid analogy in this case, as when we talk about funding in open source, there is the element of motivation that you really cannot I don't want to use the word control, or let's say mold through monetary compensation. So it's a difficult thing to go about. So we need to find a balance between what is it that we can fund and what type of motivations the community members have. And how we've proceeded so far, and also what I've noticed in other open source models that are quite close to us, is that money enables removing the friction. So the more we invest in making the contribution process easy for whoever wants to get involved, the better that experience is. The second we start talking about direct compensation, it gets very complex. And I don't know if we can solve that equation. So for now, we're spending money into well, having also a team here with an HQ that's dedicating time to enabling those contributions and listening to people and getting their feedback fed into all the things that we do here at HQ. But also at the same time, enabling support to festival and meetup organizers with anything that we can make available for them. And we're always open to ideas. So how we see it is that we can use the money side of things to make the contribution experience the best and remove that friction. As for direct payments or direct funding, that's something maybe that we can explore, for example, for the package creators, like which was mentioned in that question. But for now, we don't really have the winning formula. And the second someone comes up with something that works for open source projects, we can hopefully duplicate that experience. And I've seen some initiatives with what GitHub does, and I think also some other models. We'll just need to actually give it the thought and the reflection that it deserves.
I guess the flip side is if you pay people to contribute outside of their work hours, it complicates tax maybe, or in the UK, national insurance. And also it might cause complications for them in terms of employment, because if they're doing it in their own time, they're paid by two companies, which they might not contractually be allowed to do. So there's a lot to unravel there, like you say.
Just following up on what Ilham says, and yeah, we do not have the winning formula. We're open to all kinds of ideas. We would very much like to make it easier in lack of better words, easier to integrate with Umbraco. being a package or be a third party software, would very much like to work along or down that route. We need to get our head around what's the direction. How can we at the same time cater for package open source part of it, and at the same time the big spenders that I would like to see do some revenue share in order to fund the project. And we need to get our head around that, and that's on the plate for this in a near future to
in a future near you.
Yeah. But I mean, whatever we open.
Sorry, got quite a few questions left. Just really quickly, there were a lot of questions around the plans with regards to documentation. I know that Sophie Toft did a blog yesterday, so rather than go over that, great for people to go and check that out on Umbraco, on our Umbraco. There were quite a few questions around headless core, Uno, and so
if I may, headless is one of our cloud offering. It runs on the Umbraco cloud platform, and it's intended to fund the overall project. So there's no plans of making that available in any form or shape in core. As to Uno, both hardcore and Uno, there's kind of four types of agencies. What we see is that design agencies, they kind of like the editorial experience that you get using Umbraco, but they would like to deliver on another platform. That's why we created hardcore, because then they can use that, or if it's omni-channel, which also is very popular in some areas these days. Uno was an attempt, and I admit not very well delivered to the market and to the existing partners, but is an attempt to target marketing agencies that do not hold any development resources. So the whole point of hardcore and Uno is to broaden the partner channel, targeting other types of partners that we have done since the birth of Umbraco. I also saw there were some questions around the pricing. One of them being why we price on notes. Well, it works for us, so that's why we do it. I'm not saying that we are going to continue doing that. Also asked the justification of the price. Well, if the customers feel that they get the benefits from it, then they are happy to pay. So that's meeting the market that sets that price. Obviously, as with any new products we go into the market, you never set the price right. So we will see adjustments as we move forward. As far as goes for hardcore, we've seen that it's the more high tiers clients we are getting than the low tiers. So that's how the market has responded to those two. And as I mentioned, they are part of making sure that we can fund the project.
Are there publicly available roadmaps for each of those as well?
Not for the time being. Not because I mean, as I think Filip said, there's 2 men in the cloud feature team. We need, that's one of the areas where we need to improve. Once we have the bandwidth, and we are working on that, then we will be able to say something more clever on that. It's not because it's secret.
Okay. Filip, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, just mentioning the roadmap before we end, as you might know, if you've been following Umbraco, there is a public roadmap on the website, where we do talk about what we want to do, as I said, what we've decided to do, and it's there is actually a couple of things for Uno and Hardcore as well in there, but of course it's very focused on the CMS and on cloud. And I want to just say, of course, that like we know that we need to come up with something that, like, one of the questions are, what are we going to do after Netcore, right? And this is one of the things that we're working on these months. So I would expect that we have an updated roadmap, and we're ready to talk about it a lot more at Code Garden. And so if you want to make yourself a part of this journey, this is a good time to reach out with your idea. But as I said, don't expect that it's going to be all features. There is going to be a lot of work of stabilizing and making sure that the platform is in a good place. And then, just to mention my own pet project, of course, is the new future-proofing of the back office. We closed the first IFC, and the second one is coming next week. I think this is the first time I said that. But next week is we're gonna announce the second IFC for that. So stay tuned and read more about that. I think that's what I wanted to just get in there before we end about the roadmap. So lots of cool stuff is coming. Follow along, wait for Code Garden, and now is a good time to bring us your idea.
Talking of Code Garden, historically at Code Garden there was a lot of stats available, and I think we missed that last year in terms of stats and in terms of product releases. I think Uno would have probably been announced at Code Garden, for example. There were a lot of requests for stats around uses of the products you've got. Have you got any that you can share with us?
Maybe Kim can talk to the
The short answer is too little. There's definitely too little of usage of Umbraco products in the world. As to I guess the question is around the cloud versus non-cloud. If you look at our vision, we have a vision of end this year to get 1 million sites on the Umbraco platform, whereof 10% are on a paid platform, so 90% on the open source free version. And currently, as with so many other things in Umbraco, we lost track of, long story short, we lost track of the number of installs. We've recently re-established that, and there's 730,000, at least, that's a minimum, sites running on Umbraco. Most likely it's closer to 1 million, but we can see minimum, because that's only from version 7.8 or something like that we can measure, running on the open source version. And I can rest assured that on the cloud platform, we are far away from having 10% of that number. Very far away. I will not disclose exact numbers on either product line or on this, as this is one of the few things that we keep to ourselves. nor will I disclose what tiers our customers are using on that. But the mission is to spread, to grow the reach of Umbrago, and the majority, 90%, is on the free version, and nowadays with the numbers, it's far higher than 90%, which is on the free version.
We are pretty satisfied that 700,000. It is a pretty big reach, and
it's amazing.
We're really happy about that number, and
we're really happy. Thank you.
We've been saying 500 and something for that's been on the website for ages, right? And it was really nice to actually, like, over the fall period, like we had a project where we tried to gather numbers and figure out, like, how do we count this in a trustworthy way, and that we believe, and like, it was really great to see that the number was actually a lot higher than the 500,000 we've been saying for a long time. So that's really nice. And then it's really good that, like, with the new stuff, some of the install metrics that we launched with 8.10, we can count really precisely from 8.10 and forward all the installs. So as we progress over the coming years, less and less of this is going to be up to some kind of debate. It's just going to be hard numbers.
That'd be great to hear. There were a lot of lovely questions in the spreadsheet asking how everyone at Umbraco HQ was. And I guess that leads to a question about governance of because we've talked about us being a community. What procedures are there in place to support Umbraco in the community and also in HQ? I guess that's one for you, Ilham.
I'm pretty sure Kim would like to chip in here, just to continue tradition. Yeah, I think we've been quite clear in the way we would like to go about this. Like Kim mentioned at the very beginning, the three elements that we are a software, a community, and a company. So this is how we go about it. Like, everything feeds into each other, and we value the importance of the community, and we're doing a lot around bringing a lot of internal awareness about how it's important for us to collaborate as teams and also to keep the community in mind. As per, like, governance procedures that need to be in place, that's just the way we're running the business. So for us, all elements include feedback from the community, and we've been working towards establishing procedures for that, so that it's actually that feedback that gets delivered to us actually is being included. Other than that, I don't know what else we can do, but like we all mentioned, we're always open to suggestions from the community. Unless, I don't know, Rachel, because you've summarized the questions, if you are referring here to something specific that was asked, I'm happy also to answer that.
No, there was nothing specific. I don't think. It was just like a way of grouping a lot of the topics. And I just wanted as well to say there was a lot of care expressed in there, which was really lovely to see. And I'm sure some of the tougher questions came from wanting to improve Umbraco as well, and from a place of love. I have left the hardest question to last, though. And it's probably one the author didn't think would ask. And you could read the original question in the spreadsheet, and it illustrates the humour in our community, but has a serious side. What are Umbraco's plans and around merchandise and swag?
More.
Very difficult to answer, actually.
More. We have had a web dream for I can see Ravi says that he wants more and he wants some socks. Ilham, let's make a note and make sure to send one sock to Ravi. And I do think, Ravi, that you got a frozen U at some point at a coat garden and you didn't look after it very well. I mean, I don't think you have it anymore.
But Kim, I don't know if we can actually tease about plans for actually having a great or at least structured merchandise process here. So it's not just random people who know someone at HQ who gets socks. Or can we tease about that, or is that still?
Yeah, as long as Ravi doesn't get anything, then I'm happy.
Okay, so his name will be out of the system.
Yeah. So yeah, Ilham, go ahead.
I would love for you actually to tease about it because you have more information than I.
We have had a wet dream of making a swag shop in Umbraco for quite some years, but again, we haven't had the bandwidth to do so. We have been approached by two dear community members, one having created a personalization tool. He's working out of Arnhem, and another community member making an e-commerce solution. He's working out of UK. And together we will meet and talk if we together can make a swag shop on utilizing cloud, vendor, and your marketing suite on this to make it more easier for everyone to get some the swag that they deserve. I've been. We on Hacktoberfest we gave the option of planting a tree, which I'm personally very happy because I like to take.
You're happy for all the wrong reasons.
So chainsaw or axe. So as we can do other things than swag as long as it's trees.
Yeah.
I think that just about wraps it up for now, unless there's anything else you wanted to quickly cover. We're running over time.
Actually, I would just like to mention that, again, the list of questions that we received, we're very thankful for all the feedback and criticism and all positive elements that were in there. And what we tried to do with this session is to make sure that we tackle all those 70-something questions. So if there is anything that you feel like was not asked, please make sure to submit your question in the next community office hours within the topic that's selected for it. And if the topic doesn't match your questions, then please suggest a topic for the 4th session that I believe will be taking place in April or May.
And I just want to express my appreciation and gratefulness of all the kind words that we receive. From time to time, we get a harsh word. They tend to fill more than the kind words. But I do work on focusing on the kind words. So thank you for that, all.
Ilham, sorry, do you want to talk about the next Umbraco Community Hours and how to submit questions for it?
Yes, of course. We have 3 sessions already scheduled. So the one after this very first one is, I believe, a really great one, because we will be introducing the new developer advocates and getting Arnold to actually talk about his role as a developer advocate, as well as a friend maker or a partner manager. So this is a really great session that I hope people will either submit questions or will join later on and then submit questions during the live session. And like you, Rachel, you graced us with your presence today, and with help with questions, we will have Henk Polman, who's also an MVP, Umbraco MVP, and who's been very involved in different community initiatives. He said yes to hosting and moderating that session. So I hope many will join in. And for that one, we will make sure that there is live sign in, so also it's accessible to many in the audience.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, sounds like it's going to be a great next office hours. I'm looking forward to seeing it. And thank you for your time today, Kim, Filip, and Ilham. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Rachel, for hosting this.
Thanks.
Very much appreciated.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.